Okay, so we're continuing on with our discussion of filters and bandwidth here. And filters can have what we call sharp or broad boundaries, where that cutoff is a very steep slope or a more gradual slope. So it is impossible to have a completely attenuated filter at exactly a certain frequency. We can't just straight up turn it on and off. Instead, the frequencies beyond the cutoff are gradually attenuated as the frequencies increase or decrease beyond what is specified by the filter, whether it's a low pass or high pass filter. So broadly tuned filters have a more gradual attenuation of frequencies, while sharply tuned filters have a faster attenuation of the frequencies that are allowed. So how much does that acoustic energy have to be attenuated in order to say that the filter does not allow the frequency component to pass? So by convention, this is identified as the half power point. So this is the frequency at which the amplitude of the frequency component is decreased by 3 dB, 3 decibels, which is half of its power. So this means that a filter bandwidth is the frequency range between the points on the slopes of a resonance curve where the response is 3 dB lower than that of the peak. So that is really what's going to dictate that filter bandwidth. Okay. And so formants, as we know, act as bandpass filters, and those are characterized by their center frequency and their bandwidth. So the center frequency is the midpoint or peak of that filter. So this is the frequency that is allowed to pass with the greatest amplitude. The bandwidth is the range of frequencies between the low and high pass cutoff frequencies. And that bandwidth specifies the range of frequencies that are allowed to pass with varying amounts of attenuation. So essentially the bandwidth, again, is determined by that slope of the filter. So bandwidth is the width in hertz of the filter's peak, such as half of its acoustic energy is contained within that bandwidth. Okay. And so time is the inverse of frequency. And so a spectrogram can then present detailed information about the harmonic structure of the source signal, or precise information about the resonant characteristics of our vocal tract. Both cannot be displayed on this, at the same time because time and frequency are inversely related. So the detail to which frequency or time information is displayed is referred to as the frequency or time resolution. So more commonly, the resolution is referred to as the filter bandwidth, and a narrow bandwidth resolves frequency information well, but has poor time resolution. Conversely, a wide bandwidth resolves frequency information poorly, but the time resolution is good. We're going to explore this a little bit more here. So a narrow band filter can see individual harmonics, while a wide band filter can see multiple harmonics at once. So in a spectrographic analysis, a narrow band filter will resolve the frequency information well, but time information poorly. Alternatively, that wideband filter will resolve time information well, but the frequency information poorly. And the digital systems we have in our computers allow for you as a user to select the width of your analysis window by selecting a window length in terms of time or in terms of digital sampling points. Okay. And so here are some examples of narrow and wideband spectrograms of E, our high front vowel. So the narrowband spectrum displaces the source characteristics, the harmonics clearly. Here on the left, we can see each of those lines represented, all those narrow parallel lines. On the other hand, our wideband spectrogram displays the vocal tract filter function, our formants, more clearly. And these are represented by the broad horizontal bands of dark gray. The effect of the formants is also seen to a point. In our narrow band spectrum, we can still see that some are darker than others, but it's just easier to capture that in that wideband filter. So harmonics that have frequencies that are close to the formants have darker gray bands, representing more energy, and the harmonics whose frequencies are far from the formant frequencies have lighter gray, almost sometimes white coloring because they have less energy. So in our wideband spectrogram, the source characteristics are evident here. Also in the vertical striations, we can see all these little vertical lines. Each of those is representing one cycle of vocal fold vibration. So all those lines represent one time that those vocal folds opened and shut.